Can we talk for a minute? Can I just level with you for just a moment? My legs are really sore. Like the front of my legs on both sides. I don't know what it was that I did. The only thing I can think is I helped my dad work on some of his bathroom remodel, and my legs are super sore. Like the maybe like the hip flexors, like the groin area. I don't know. I wasn't doing like an excessive amount of squatting or anything, but that's the only thing I can think of. I wasn't running from a bear. I'm not doing well. And I talked about it on the last episode. I think it was the last episode, the last YouTube video that I did, where the folks that designed Wolverine over at Marvel, when they were creating that character, he's not like your stereotypical um, male power fantasy, but he is a power fantasy in a different way, in that he is a middle aged man who cannot get tender joints, who cannot get sore muscles, who recovers very quickly from any pain or overexertion that he might have done. And I'm feeling that right now. I'm like, man, I could sure stand to be a Wolverine type character with the healing property that he has. Welcome to the Culture Jack podcast. This is the YouTube video format of our audio podcast. Um, if you're new here, what we do here is we talk about, a lot of people talk about it, but we talk about video games, we talk about movies, comic book movies, we talk about uh, technology, cultural things that have gone on that may be in the zeitgeist of nerd culture. So if that kind of stuff is interesting to you, stick around and we'll hang out. We'll talk about it for a little bit. I have to start off by telling you this is the second week back for new episodes of the podcast. We took about a year off, and last one I published was a year ago, a couple weeks ago. That doesn't make sense. So like what I'm trying to say is it was a couple weeks ago plus a year. So a year and a couple of weeks. You know what I'm trying to say. And so I just got back. This is the second episode that I've published since I've been back. It's Culture Jacked 287 Nostalgia Futures. So if you haven't gotten a chance to already and you're interested in hearing more of what I have to say beyond what I have to say here in this video, you can head over there and check it out. New episodes are out now. Now, the thing about this episode, if you've listened to the Culture Jack podcast for a while, maybe you're new over here on the YouTube side of things, you'll know that most of the episodes that I do are by myself. It's a solo operation. But this episode that was released today, concurrently with this video that you're watching here, is one that I did with a character from the original Geek podcast, Mr. Rockin' Mr. Magic, Matt Williams. It was a great conversation we had. We talked about all kinds of things. We talked about Casper the Ghost. We talked about old games and movies and TV shows from our childhood, kind of the things that give us those goosebumps on the back of your neck when you talk about nostalgia. Um, Matt had a very touching moment talking about online friends that he had made. But it's a longer podcast than normal, of over an hour of podcast for that one. So don't go expecting that from me all the time. Just here, just here on this occasion. And it's nice. It was nice to do this podcast with Matt because uh, for those folks that have been following Culture Jack for a long time, we started the podcast back in 2018, Anthony and myself, and it's a lot better to do a podcast with a pal. It's a lot better to do a podcast when you have someone to bounce ideas uh, off of. You have someone to build inspiration in ideas, and then not just that, but it's like also to take a break. You'll notice that I'm okay at talking for long periods of time by myself without nary taking a breath. Um, but it's nice to be able to share some of that burden with someone else, and that's what I got to do with Matt there. So if I haven't sold you on the episode already, go check it out. And if you don't check out that podcast episode, you can also go check out the original Geek podcast. Uh, I'll link it in the description below if you want to go take a look. But I did a couple episodes over there a while ago. And this episode that we did, you know, it's pretty dang good though. But I think the ones that were over at the original Geek podcast might have been a little bit better. Anyway, new podcast episodes out, new episode out today. And I wrote a book. Where is it? It's nowhere near me. Oh, here it is. Excuse me. The Obsidian Pillar. I wrote this. It's a poem. It's a poem that I wrote and I illustrated it uh, with AI. I know some people don't like AI. Some people have very bad opinions about AI creations, and they have some very, I think, some very valid complaints about AI. Uh, and I'm gonna talk about AI, and I'm going to talk about my use of AI, what I fear from AI, what I'm not worried about with AI. You know, this shit's been popping off for a few months now with ChatGPT, with Dolly, with Midjourney. Um, I use Dolly too for the book, by the way. But yeah, it's an interesting time. And if you would have asked me like where this all was going, you know, 6 months ago, I would have been very apocalyptic in my prediction. I would have been um, very cynical, very pessimistic about what's going on. I guess I'm very cynical now. I was very pessimistic before. But I don't think artists are going anywhere. I don't think lawyers are going anywhere. I don't think any of the bill of sales that we have been given for AI are going to come to pass. I just don't think so. I don't see it happening. But what I was going to talk about today, and I guess it's been kind of a recurring theme in these video segments, but I was going to talk about gaming and how I may be losing my luster for games. I did a podcast episode a while back talking about how dare how dare this boomer generation, these adults that were before me, tell me that I, a nearly 40-year-old man, am too old to play video games. How dare they? That has been one of my favorite pastimes, my favorite hobbies since I was just a boy. Since since my parents got me that first Super Nintendo Entertainment System, me and my brothers, of course. Since we used to sneak off into my grandfather's shed to play his old Atari. Since we in his hobby room were blowing on the cartridges of Super Dodgeball for the NES console, or playing Duck Hunt with those little guns. Like, this has been a big part of my life, a big part of my personality for a long time. And so when I made that podcast, when I was talking about it, I laid out all the reasons why, it encourages puzzle solving, it is good for reflexes, it engages you in a similar way to when you read a book or you watch a movie or you're exposed to any kind of entertainment. So I laid out what I thought was a pretty good argument for video games on into adulthood. Part of me now is thinking that they might have been right, and not because it's a childish pastime, but because I don't like it hasn't drawn my interest. I talked to you about Redfall a little bit, and dismal launch that was. But looking back at some of Bethesda's other games and looking back at um, Doom, I'm still playing Doom, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. But I was like, all right, I'm done with Doom for a little bit. I got to put down the demon killing and I got to find another game to play in this realm of gaming. And I just went through my library, and just like before I stumbled upon Doom, I was like, no, I'm not into that. Nope, that's too much of a commitment. And I don't know if it's me valuing my time more necessarily, uh or if it is me just maybe becoming too cynical, maybe not finding joy. And I think I know when it started too. Uh it started a few years ago. I was playing something, and I wasn't high enough powered. All games, or most games, have RPG elements in them now. And I wasn't high enough leveled to do a certain section, so I had to go back and I had to grind a little bit. And I just was thinking to myself, God, how is this game taking advantage of me? Um, I look at games that make me do a lot of backtracking, which is why I like Doom. I'll tell you why I like Doom here in a second, but that make me do a lot of backtracking, because man, what a waste of my time. Do not pad your game with some nonsense just so the runtime is a little bit longer, when a good deal of that runtime is made up with fetch quests and back and forths that aren't really necessary. Why I like Doom is because I didn't feel like, or I haven't felt like yet, that I'm doing a lot of backtracking. I did get lost a couple of times, and I did, not know what the next step was. So I ran around in circles like a chicken with my head cut off. But for the most part, I run, I gun, I blow up things. They have really good visual cues with the green lights in that game. And, they make it look like it's a part of a railing that's been torn apart, or a post that's stuck in the ground. But you can follow the green lights throughout the game. And yeah, it's got me like that. But lately, I haven't felt that zest for gaming. I haven't experienced that luster and that excitement and that hype for gaming. And I don't know if maybe it's because I'm a steadfast Xbox gamer. And maybe everything they've said about that console and their lack of exclusives, maybe it's got to me. Maybe they're onto something there. I don't know. I don't think so, because I've got a lot of good games that I've enjoyed. But I think I'm just losing some of that luster, and I don't want to. I want to I want to be a little gamer boy, for gosh sakes. Anyway, I got to figure out how or why I'm so damn sore right now. So thanks for listening to me. You know, I I recognize when I get on here that maybe I don't have the most to say. Maybe it's not the most coherent. Um, Also, maybe it's not relevant to you, or what your journey is at the moment. And I recognize that maybe I'm putting out nonsense into the world, perhaps. But I don't know if I've mentioned it. I'm sure I have. Part of the reason that I want to do it is whether or not I have a big profound idea that I want to deliver in this format, whether or not the thing that I have is game changing. I want to do it anyway, so I can be in a good habit of doing something, so I can uh, kind of push those creative levers. And even if it's not something that is a something I've written, scripted ahead of time, that I'm hitting points A, B, C, and D. It is me getting here, is doing the thing, and then as I develop that consistency for it, then I'll come back and I'll tweak the methodology a little bit. I will make it so I'm not just improving in that one area, in the consistency area, but I am improving in audio quality, I'm improving in video quality, I'm improving in overall content of what I'm delivering, um, to the admittedly very few people that see these videos. But if you have, I appreciate you. If you have not, please consider subscribing to this channel. I'll give you updates on when I put out new podcast episodes. But if my luster, if my newfound drive to put out podcast episodes and YouTube videos every week is any indication, it'll be every Friday. It'll be every Friday here, and then it'll be every Friday over on the stream. Remember to go check out episode 287, which it, our numbering is off. We've done over 300 episodes. We just did a lot of non-numbered episodes as well, specials and you know the like. Um, but yeah, we're increase that number. So consider subscribing over here, like the video, and we'll catch you next week. Ooh, I got a little tongue tied there. Let me say goodbye, as I have done. I hope your week was great, and I hope your weekend is even better. Cheers.